Graham Turner is the founder of GFC Economics and author of Should Germany Leave the Euro? He thinks that Germany and possibly 3 other countries should leave the euro and form their own currency bloc. While my other guest thinks that this talk is quite simply nonsense. It's George Magnus, who's Senior Economic Advisor at UBS, and they both join me now. Graham, if I can begin by asking you, I mean, this is the other way round from the way that most people see it. Do you really think this is a realistic possibility that Germany could just walk away from the whole euro, not just the euro, but it would be walking away from the European project, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not entirely walking away from the European project. The European project still, at its core, is the European Union, of which there are 27 members. So we shouldn't be too apocalyptic about Germany leaving the euro. But let's be quite clear. I mean, we're running out of alternatives here, and a large part of the problem is Germany's unwillingness to support the peripherals. They've caused the latest sell-off in the bond markets by the comments of Chancellor Angela Merkel. We've seen a massive reluctance of the ECB to buy bonds, to do quantitative easing in the way the Federal Reserve has done in the US and the way that the Bank of England has done in this country. So really it's a case of Germany has to either put up or shut up, really. I mean, if they're not prepared to be a willing player of the single currency and all the rules that go with that, then they have to think of alternative options.
They're all keen, though, for the bailout, aren't they? I mean, they're keen for countries like Ireland to accept a bailout, and a lot of that debt actually belongs to German banks. So it's not necessarily just helping a friend in need. There's a degree of self-interest there for Germany, isn't there?
It's total self-interest, and what concerns me particularly about some of the German rhetoric is that they haven't really lent against the kind of the media stereotyping of lazy Southern Europeans, which is to say, look, actually we helped create this problem as well. We have a shared responsibility. I mean, let's be quite clear, Germany is a very successful manufacturing powerhouse, and that has contributed to some of the imbalances, but also the flip side of it is the bank lending to Ireland, to Spain, and the buying of Greek government debt by German banks. So they're all in it together, as the saying goes, and I think there needs to be a greater shared responsibility. If we look at the European budget deficit, it is not that big. It's lower than the UK, it's lower than Japan, it's lower than the US. The average debt to GDP ratio is not that high across Europe. It's just that there is a dispersion towards the peripherals.
George, if I can bring you in here. Germany leaving the euro, allowing the rest of the nations to get on with it. The euro would go down, that would help an awful lot of the peripheral nations. Good idea?
No. In fact, actually, I don't disagree with Graham at all, actually. When I saw the story reported yesterday, I think it was reported in a slightly different way, is that this would be an option for Germany which could lead to a seamless transition to, a different kind of Europe and different kind of dual Eurozone, which I thought was actually very naive and fanciful, because actually, if Germany decided to effectively dump the Eurozone, the project is over, and the European Union probably itself would be terminated, and the whole continent would sink into a terrible
Why would
depression.
it though? Britain's not in the euro. It wouldn't necessarily mean the end of the whole project. The EU could still survive, couldn't it?
I'm not sure that it could, actually, and particularly if the biggest economy, which is also Europe's biggest creditor, actually decides that it's going to pull the plug and kind of tread its own furrow. Then I think it just leaves the whole of the project basically dead in the water. And then it becomes, and you have to imagine what the political circumstances might be leading up to that, which would be acrimonious, and the blame game. And the Germans obviously wouldn't want to be blamed, I don't think, for plunging Europe into depression during peacetime as well as historically in wartime. So this is an incredibly difficult and fractious situation. So, but I completely concur with Graham's view, which is that this is a creditor-debtor problem, and it is absolutely unacceptable, really, for the creditor country to think that they have no role in trying to fix the problem other than by writing checks. The Germans have to pay one way or the other. It's either to the European invalids or it's to their own banks.
Well, it seems, though, that perhaps Angela Merkel would rather pay directly to her own banks. Do you get that feeling?
Absolutely, and I think that, we are going to, if we keep down the same path that we're on at the moment, we're going to get a political backlash within the peripheral countries. I mean, what I'm concerned about is we've got another austerity package due in January in Greece. The economy is still in recession. Spain is spiralling downwards. I mean, the economy went back into recession over the summer. House prices still falling. There's a lot of pain still to come there. And really, what the bond market in Ireland is saying is that they don't believe this austerity can work because we're in a debt trap. And what Germany has to do is accept that point. And particularly, I think there's a lot of criticism in the city amongst my clients of Axel Weber at the ECB for the role he has played since May, when he went against quantitative easing, and I warned at the time that actually it would undermine this policy, and he's done an enormous amount of damage, and there's too much harking back to 1923. I mean, George makes the point about the 30s, it's absolutely right. We're in danger of creating a similar scenario because we probably don't really understand the lessons of the 1920s, which is that actually that was all about hyperinflation. This is about deflation. I mean, there's a real hang-up about quantitative easing that is not justified in my view, and that is a big part of the problem.
So low interest rates and no QE, no more QE, it's not going to work for the Eurozone?
If they continued, I think this idea about exit strategies, which has been part of the kind of ECB rhetoric for some time, if that isn't quickly quashed and done so in conjunction with a more innovative approach and a more politically astute communication strategy from European leaders, and particularly from the German government. I think this is kind of part of the problem. What Angela Merkel is talking about is probably absolutely bona fide. Bondholders will have to be haircutted, and banks, will have to be shut down, restructured, merged, and so on and so forth. But actually, there are ways and ways of doing this, and obviously the ways that they've done it so far have been really cack-handed.
George, we've established that things aren't great, that there's certainly something wrong. If Germany didn't walk away right now, some people might even find it surprising that some of those smaller Eurozone countries aren't already talking more about the possibility that they would leave the Euro. It does seem that it's very difficult for the smaller countries to leave, even though the kind of blue sky thinking of deciding that you would devalue and default and start all over again might be quite appealing.
Yeah, I think this is, again, a kind of fairly traditional kind of conflict between sort of the economic reasoning and the politics that eventually may trump that reasoning. So I think the smaller countries clearly recognise that economically they're better off being inside the Eurozone than outside, where they might just end up like pariahs like Argentina and just be cut off from credit and so on. But you don't know how the politics can change, and I think it's kind of watch this space, because you could see the development of anti-EU populist political parties,
particularly in countries like Ireland now, where the IMF are there, and if they watch the plans, these growth plans that have been laid out, simply not working, and growth slowing, and them not meeting those targets, then there is more of a political appetite, surely, to say, well, hold on a second, we did it your way and it just didn't work.
Yeah, there's anger there, no question about it. There's a question, in the end, of who hijacks that anger. It can either be hijacked for constructive purposes, and we're going to get on top of this, and so on and so forth, and force or try to put pressure on other countries in the Eurozone to respond, or it could be hijacked by populist parties, which and the outcomes are then completely unpredictable.
Indeed. Graham, do you honestly think that there is more likelihood that it'll be Germany that would walk away from the Euro project at this stage than one of those peripherals?
I'm open-minded. I think that, George talks about the political currents. He's absolutely right. You don't quite know where they're going, but there is a very real danger of, or very real prospect, should I say, of a populist backlash. We're starting to see it coming through, and the question is, does that then make Germany think, hang on a minute, ungrateful peripherals, after all we've done, we're going to take our ball home with us. So, I think it's 50-50 there, really, and it wouldn't be that difficult to reintroduce the Deutschmark. We've done over a weekend, and you have a longer period to change the notes and coins. So it's not an insurmountable object. It depends a lot on the political currents in Germany, and the extent to which if it was Helmut Kohl there, who was such a European supporter, then you'd be a lot more confident that a German leader could hold the populist talk in Germany.